Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're going to focus on my high-speed passenger train, both adding a couple of normal carriages and a couple of mock carriages as well. In a recent video we did my cargo train, adding a lot of carriages to that to make it a veritable snake rolling through my city, and now I want to do the same thing to my high-speed passenger train. And this train is based on set 60051, which is called High Speed Passenger Train, and that's from 2014. And the standard train consists of three parts, because it's sort of double-ended. It's got the engine car, which has actually got the power functions stuff in it, one middle carriage, and then the other end train, which is actually just a passenger carriage as well. Now, the only changes I've made to this are, first of all, changing a bit with the power functions setup, and I've added some lights into the front. So that's the power functions light set 8870. I've also changed the battery pack in here from the normal one that takes AAA batteries to the rechargeable battery box 8878, which doesn't seem to be available for purchase anymore, which is a real shame because it gives quite a long life of use, and it also is more consistent in that when batteries get a bit dull, they have a bit of trouble powering the whole train at high speed, whereas the rechargeable box seems to have a more consistent life until it needs recharging. So hopefully Lego will bring those back. Now, I don't have lights in the far car, and that's just because there's no easy way to connect them, and I want the carriages to be able to be separated, and I don't want a wire going all the way from one end through this to the other end just to power another pair of lights. And I figure they wouldn't really have those on if it's going in that direction. You'd only have the headlights on the front on, so that's fine by me. And that problem would get even worse by the time we've added loads more carriages in the middle, of course. So the only other change I've made to the standard set in this is adding some more stickers. And I found these stickers, which say second class, both there and there, and I've got some on this carriage, there and there, and I've got some ones that say first class on this one, there, and I'm missing one, annoyingly, so I've still got that on my Bricklick wanted list. But yeah, they're really good stickers, I think, and just add a bit more colour to the train. They're from the passenger train 7897 from 2006, which looks pretty similar to this one on first glance, but I do think this one's a lot better. Now, the first and most simple way to extend this train is clearly just to add more passenger cars, because the current new passenger train actually has one end and two normal cars, which means if you buy two sets, you'd have two ends and four middle cars, which makes a lot more sense if you ask me, if you want to scale up a train. But with this set, if you buy a second set, then you obviously end up with four ends and two middles, which is not ideal. However, basically in the two ends, you do have enough pieces to make one middle without getting any additional pieces at all. In fact, you get quite a few left over as well. So that's what I did. I waited till they're on sale, and I found another train with a very damaged box as well, and I bought that. So I'd have two sets, and therefore three carriages. And I've also got enough of these second class stickers to put there and on there to set these up as well. And obviously I got the stickers within the normal set to do the livery and the bicycle storage signs. So far so good. The first mock car that I want to produce has been inspired by probably the most popular train that Lego's ever produced, being the Metroliner train, and more specifically the Metroliner Club Car 4547, which is basically an observation car on top of sort of sleeper compartments. So it's kind of a double-decker carriage with lots of glass, and it's obviously a bit taller, and it looks fantastic. So I want to do something like that as well. Now, if I base this on one of these carriages as its rough starting point, then essentially this isn't going to be long enough to do the club car any justice. So basically I'm going to have to use a longer base. Now this base is 24 long, and there is one available which is 28 long, but obviously that's only 4 studs longer than this, so that's not a great help. So I need to look further afield. And that's where this base comes in. It's actually 34 studs long, which gives me 10 more to play with than a standard carriage base. Now it also has, as its most obvious feature, this huge dip, and that just means we've got a lot more sort of space in the middle, where this has currently got its sort of workings for pneumatics and electrics to utilise as well, which is actually a massive benefit, because if we're going to make this thing double decker, then starting as low as possible will be a real help. So that's the base I'm going to use for this car. Now, in designing it, there are a few things with the existing car that we want to keep, because we want it to be an integral part of this train. We don't want it looking very different. So we want to keep the same proportions in the roof line and so on. And most importantly, we want to keep all these bands. So we've got white, grey with the windows in, then white again, then this lovely red stripe which goes all the way from the front of the engine carriage, and then we've got the grey of the base itself. But now we've got this added complication that the bulk of the carriage is actually going to a lower level. So one way we could do it is just have a red stripe completely at the same level as all the other cars and have it going completely across. Or we could have it taking a bit of a detour. Now, purists might think that a single uniform stripe would be best, but it starts interfering with the windows on the lower deck if we're going to cram all this into quite a tight space, because I don't want it being ridiculously tall, or it won't go underneath Brick Nottingham Castle or over the bridge or all sorts of things. So we've got to rationalise it to a degree. So I'm going to continue the red stripe at the ends at this level with 4 1x8 plates like that. So that'll be the beginning of that. But then I'm going to have it going down. Now I'm not going to have it going down completely to the bottom, because I think we can have a dark grey layer, but I will have it going down a bit. So first of all, I'll add a couple of grey bricks, and that pretty much represents that wide grey layer that we've got in the middle there. And then I can have more red plates to represent the stripe. But then, of course, the red stripe isn't continuous, so we want it to have these 1x1 bricks just to allow that stripe, although it dips, to continue unbroken. So if I add the same structure to the other side, then we've got that. Now I'm just going to add a couple of these ladder pieces, because we've got these sort of holes in there, and I want people to be able to get down from that level to this level without using some bulky steps. And while we've got it at this open level, I'm actually just going to put in some minifigures so we can see them through all the windows. And for passengers on my train, I've basically used all the people who've got sort of the worst torsos. Well, that's sort of a very old life-saving Coast Guard type guy that I don't want anywhere else, because I've got lots of minifigures, and sometimes I buy bulk lots, and sometimes you just get ones that you don't really want to repeat. So there's a couple of Simpsons ones in here that I don't really want in my city, but are fine in here. So there we are. So we've got a few people, and maybe we'll turn a head or two, and you see I've even got some sort of standard old Lego heads in here because it's less important really. Right, so there's my lower deck, and you notice I've put in a chair and tables. I'm not doing a sleeper car because this for me is a fast passenger train, so it's going to be getting wherever it's going really quickly, and the UK just isn't big enough to warrant sleepers that are going at the speed this thing's going to be going at. So it's just going to be a double-decker seating in first class. Right, so then the next layer we need is obviously the white with the windows on top. So we can repeat that on both sides. And because this train is so popular and has been bought so many times by so many people, virtually all the parts to make this, probably bar the base, are incredibly common and quite cheap to buy on Bricklink. Added bonus. Now while we're here, I'm just going to add a little bit more red stripe because this is what's going to be supporting the layer above. And for this, I've pretty much copied the way the Metroliner Club Car did it, in that we've got basically another layer of plates supported by a couple of bricks on each end, arch bricks in my case, with some more passengers, and then that can just be sort of put in position like that. Jolly good. Now the other thing we want to keep up is the ends, so they all look the same. So basically I've made two sub-assemblies which are literally just exactly the same, including with the same stickers for each end. That overhangs slightly, so 1 and 2. And then clearly we need to continue the white stripe, but we're going to need to overlap it like we did with the red, so it will continue and not be broken. And then the windows will go up a level, and so will our grey stripe. So we'll put that on next. And this is the carriage that I'm going to have as first class. So I've got some first class stickers on all four corners. That's probably why I still need one for my front engine to be first class, because this will be the first carriage right next to the engine. And incidentally, while I remember, the engine that we've got pulling all this guy, has only got one motor. Not like my cargo train, which has two power functions motors. So that's a motor and that's just a normal bogie. So that's partially because these just aren't that heavy and there's fewer of them than on the cargo train. So we really only need one motor to pull it all and still go quite quickly. So that's no problem. Also, even if we did want to do that, we'd have to do a bit of a redesign because, as you can see, the space here for this bogie is nowhere near as much as for the motor. So it's not like the cargo train where it was double-ended and basically you could put two on and mirror it and it looked perfect. So that's quite a good thing that we don't need another one. Of course, you could put another motor on the other end, but then you're entering a world of pain, either linking them together with wires so they work from the same control, or having two different controls all set to the same, and I don't want to go there. Right, so now we need to do the next layer, which is a white stripe. Get this pushed down well. So you can see now we're sort of getting to the point where we're replicating more the existing structure, because we're up to this layer in the old one, and we've managed to dip down with these windows to allow the passengers to see out while still retaining this lovely red stripe with this lovely white stripe and this lovely grey stripe with the windows in it. So I think that is faithful to the original without having a red stripe underneath the windows, which would mean the white one would have to come to an abrupt halt. And then on top of that, we need another layer of windows, and I've started to incorporate a bit of a curve. So that is a 4x1 curved slope. You can see that there, and I'll put the other half on. I'm doing this in sub-assemblies just to speed me up, really. There we go. And then the same on the other side. I think you'll be able to work out just from this, if you want to replicate it, what you need. It's just plates and bricks. There's no sort of special combination, and more of these window panels obviously. So there we are. Now we're starting to get to that double-decker look. You can see that both sets of passengers can easily see out of their windows. So first of all, to tidy these ends, so normally we'd have these sort of double slope pieces, which are very convenient, but we need to kind of do a different shape on this one to sort of get up to this corner. So basically I've mocked up something that's a bit similar. It's actually using two 2x3 slopes, and then two of these corner slopes as well as a 2x4 brick, just supported from underneath. And that just means that we can kind of gently go into these straight sides from that kind of normal roof angle. So when this is next to another one, it's kind of seamless, but then it also accommodates this without too much of a lumpy transition. So exactly the same on the other side. And obviously we've got the tiles continuing as well. And then it's time for the most important piece, which is this. We need two of these. This is piece 41751, which is an 8x6x2 windscreen. These are usually found on submarines and helicopters and things like that. But if you've built this right, and you've got these slopes, it will perfectly match the curve of the underside of this windscreen piece. So from the side, you see it's absolutely unbroken. There's no air gap under there whatsoever. And it's a lovely sort of smooth transition without having any sort of gaps or weirdness. And it's still got the look of a fast, high-speed passenger train because it's very streamlined as well. So then we can continue that with these TransBlack roof panels. And I'm just giving it extra strength at the top with these 1x2 grille pieces in black, which do echo the ones on the other train carriages as well. So there we are, 1, 2, 3, 4. So all these glass pieces just for the top are going to be the hardest pieces to find on Bricklink, if that's where you're going. I didn't actually check which ones are still available on Lego Bricks and Pieces, so that might be worth a check as well. And then to cap it off, another one of those. Ooh, there we are, missed the connection at the back. And there we have it. Our club car, first class, with perhaps dining on the downstairs and observation car on the top floor. And then we just need two normal bogies to put on the bottom. And then we have it. Now if I just put this in between two others, you will see that it is absolutely sort of seamless with regard to its ends and its styling, until it just sort of kind of bulges out in the middle before it returns exactly to the profile of the rest of the carriages of the rest of the train. So I think that makes it a great success. Cool. Let's do another. Now the second mock car I wanted to do was inspired by another set, which was 7819 Postal Container Wagon, and that's a set from way back in 1983. And obviously it's exactly what it says on the tin, a postal container wagon. And it used to be, I don't know if it is still the case, but fast trains would be responsible for carrying the mail and therefore would have a container wagon as part of their setup, so the mail could get from one end of the country to the other incredibly quickly. And although that may not be the case anymore, I thought I would add one to my train just for a bit of variety. So I'm using the same longer base that I did on the previous car, the club car, and that's because the integral part to this one, that one had the integral glass roof, well this one's going to have some integral sliding doors. Now these are definitely the hardest part to get for this set, and we're going to need two pairs, a pair for this side and a pair for the other side. And these are part number 4511. They come in lots of different colours, so that's quite good if you want to do a different thing for a different train. But these are obviously light bluish grey. And they came with a few sets, most notably 7898, the Cargo Train Deluxe. So we have the same challenges here as we did before, in that I want to keep that red stripe along the bottom, also then the white stripe, grey stripe, white stripe, and so on. But whereas that was difficult before because we needed to incorporate two sets of windows here, it's now even more difficult because we're going to incorporate some great big grey doors. So how on earth are we going to keep that lovely red stripe going across the whole length of it unbroken? Well, this time I think we really are going to have to take it right to the bottom of this base, because we are also going to have to incorporate the sliding mechanisms, so these modified 1x8 plates, and they also come in 1x2s, that will actually allow the doors to open and close. And that for me is very important as well. So I think what we'll do is we'll put that right on the bottom, and then it will act as an indication of where exactly we're going to have the top rung by obviously the length of these. So in order to have that unbroken stripe, this time we're going to have two 1x1 red bricks on each end before we link up with our 1x8s on the ends. And at least then we've maintained our red stripe, which for me is, well, possibly the most important thing. So I'll just replicate all that on the other side. Now I haven't designed an interior for this one because, quite frankly, you won't be able to see it. I did have a plan of making it some sort of covert goodie base, kind of like the large lorry is in Knight Rider or something like that, you know, packed full of computers and a sort of super fast response unit to get to wherever there's a problem in Brick Nottingham. Because Brick Nottingham, if you might have noticed, it's got quite a few baddies all over the place in it, so we would need a peacekeeping force or two. But I'm not going to do that today, so that's a sort of thought for something else, I think. So next we need some white with some grey on top. And again, I'm using the same stickers as before on each of the corners, so it matches absolutely everything else. And then obviously we'll need that replicator on the other side. And then we'll need the standardised ends that are on absolutely every carriage. So that goes there, and the same on this side. So again, this is just standard white bricks, and I'm only using the 1x8s here because they had the sticker on when I bought them. There we go. Right, so again, we've already passed the second test, which is getting this, when it's joined up with everything else, to look exactly the same on the ends. So it does that, and I've even got more of the bike stickers and second class now, because maybe there's a bit of seating just before the storage bit on each end. And I think I bought too many for when I was using these, in case any didn't work very well with my patented hot tea technique, which I use to move the stickers. Right, so then we have the doors. Now, the doors at the moment are exactly the same width as the gap. Maybe it'd be easier for me to show you it like that. So I think that's a bit too close because these doors will move a little in transit. So I think we need to narrow this gap just a little. So for that, I'm going to use some of the many 1x2x5 white bricks that I bought for my beach, sort of boardwalk area and all that. Okay, so now when we put them on, we've got a bit more chance of looking completely closed, even if it sort of goes right to one end of the slide. Good. And now you can also see that we're actually at the top of this brick layer, so now is the time to put in the next slide layer. So on these we had a brick and then a plate layer, but here we're going to have to do the plate layer, then the brick layer, and that looks like this. Oop, fell out right at the last minute, because you have to kind of hold these in position when you're pushing these down. There we go. So now we've got the unbroken red stripe. The white stripe is broken, but it's possibly the least important. And then we've got the grey stripe and the white stripe completely maintained. Brilliant. Put that on the other side as well to get the other doors before I push it down too firmly. All right. I think that would make quite a good goodie base, wouldn't it? Then we've got normal double slope roof pieces for the ends, and then a great big roof section for the middle, just made out of loads of those, which are very cheap and easy to buy, as I said before. And then it's got the same tiling and grille pieces as all the other ones as well. So then when we push all that down, there we go. I think that looks really smart. Let's add our bogies. Very good. And that is completely the same in profile as its neighbours, so it definitely wouldn't slow down the train aerodynamically. Great, so all I've got to do now is get this up into the Lego room. Now for today's vehicle. Although I very much like the very recent Street Sweeper 60249, I already have a street sweeper, and that's this one, which is 7242, which is quite a fun little street sweeper with its brush on the front and its kind of vacuum thing, which I've mirrored so it's on the left side for doing the gutters on a left drive side road, as you'll find in the UK and in Brick Nottingham. And what I especially like about this set, apart from the sort of really grumpy driver who looks like he hates his life, the other thing I like is the fact that let's put that back on, that the brush actually goes round, if you position it right, as you push the vehicle, which I think's quite a subtle but good thing. So yeah, I'll put him on the streets of Brick Nottingham. Right, so the passenger train's on the inside track. So we've got the engine, first class. The observation club car, also first class. Then we've got all the ordinary second class carriages. Then we've got the large mail car. And what's seating on there is also second class. And then the back carriage. Awesome. Just straighten that door a little bit. There we are. So 7 carriages now of awesome passenger train. Let's get it running. Lights on. Bit slow to start with, just because I wanted to check it wasn't hitting anything, because those longer carriages obviously have a slightly different arc when going around the corners, so they can clip things, and those large noses on both of the end carriages sweep a very big arc on the inside of the corners, and that's why I have this train on the inside of my track. So go a bit faster now, because I don't want the nose, if it was on the outside of the track, to hit all my lovely facades and so on around the outside. But I think you'll agree that that is nice and long Nice and fast. And very streamlined looking. And I think the two mock carriages that we've made are absolutely fantastic. The club car, here it comes, looking absolutely splendid. And I think the mail car does too, with that light bluish grey door. It just stands out as something different. Yeah. And that unbroken red stripe. Oh yes, looks good, doesn't it? Right, I suggest I go in the standing hole and I can follow this thing around, and we'll get the cargo train going as well. Okay, here we go. Follow the cargo train for a bit. And there's the bridge with both trains going over it. Doesn't that look like a fantastic sight? Brilliant. And there's the passenger train going through the castle tunnels. And it's so long. It's pretty much going through the entire castle all at once. Ah! Great fun. But I do really like our new mock cars. I think they look rather smart. Oh, it's just so nice to have trains running through the city, isn't it? The harbour in the background. Fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the introduction of my full-length passenger train today, and indeed my two mock carriages, being the club car in first class and the mail car at the back. I think they look rather good. So thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we will have another update from Modular Mondays. See you then!